I'm on the case, spotting bad science. It was a dark and stormy night. Just kidding. But I'm not kidding about bad science. It can cause dark and stormy days and nights in a researcher's life. We're all familiar with fake news and clickbait. Sensationalized headlines are similar. A news outlet is trying to get you to read a story by creating an attractive headline. Academic journal articles sometimes have the same thing. Approach headlines with suspicion, especially when they're overly enticing. Like this title: Crazed Woman Stalks Brad Pitt. In reality, it was a fan trying to get a picture. Sometimes news agencies will misinterpret research for the sake of a good story, whether intentional or unintentional. Try to read the original research, the primary source, instead of relying on the article about the research. Researchers do this too on occasion, just to try to make the research seem more significant than it is, or if they don't fully understand the statistics they're using. Be skeptical if an article promises too much. Ripped from the headlines: City life makes humans less kind to strangers. It's based on a paper about people becoming less generous over time when they make decisions in an environment where they don't know or interact with other people. It has nothing to do with kindness or the city. Conflict of interest. A conflict of interest can happen in many different ways. One example is if a researcher is being paid by a company to do a study. This may not make the research bad, but the researcher may be less likely to publish negative results. Correlation and causation. Just because two statistics are correlated does not mean one caused the other. Shark attacks increasing when people eat more ice cream does not mean sharks are attracted to those who eat ice cream. There is another factor involved. In this case, summer. Unsupported conclusions. The study by Andrew Wakefield that linked the MMR vaccine to autism is a perfect example of unsupported conclusions. Wakefield has been discredited and was later arrested, but we are still dealing with the consequences of this example of bad science. Problems with sample size. A small sample size can be unavoidable, but can also make the results less valid. If I flip a coin 5 times and it lands heads up 4 of those times, it might be a coincidence. If I flip a coin 500 times and it lands heads up 400 times, I'm going to be suspicious. The larger sample size can provide a better context for the question. Unrepresentative samples used. Early studies of heart disease were conducted on men. Until recently, we did not know that heart disease presents differently in women. This is what happens when we take an unrepresentative sample and use it to make conclusions about everyone. No control group. In some studies, a control group is not appropriate, like testing whether parachutes save lives when people jump out of an airplane. But in many studies, a control group gives a helpful comparison. If a study does not have a control group, but a control group could have been used, this is a study limitation. No blind testing used. In some studies, blinding can't be done, but in others, blinding can be done. Without blinding, there are many ways that a study can be manipulated. If possible, it's best if the researcher and the patient are blinded and not allowed to know who is getting an intervention. Selective reporting of data. Did you ever leave a detail out? As a kid, I tattled on my brother by telling my mom that he broke my baton. After getting both sides of the story, she found out that he broke it because I hit him with it. Reporting only some of the facts can definitely change a story. It's something to watch out for. Another thing to watch out for: unreplicable results. When I do an experiment, I want someone else to be able to do it and get the same results. If they can't, then there's something wrong with my results, my procedure, or my conclusions. Non peer reviewed material. Peer reviewed doesn't mean that your best friend looked over your study. It means that an expert in the field has looked your study over and hasn't found any major issues. Peer review is a system of checks and balances. Articles that go through peer review have more authority behind them than those that have not been reviewed.